What has surprised me about the election is that we haven't seen from really any of the candidates a bold but specific vision for the city. What are you going to build? What are you going to change? What are you going to make different or better? And that's been a little bit disappointing to me, because the one thing I didn't mention, and I should have mentioned, is the whole concept of transforming government. This stuff didn't get a lot of headlines. But since the day that I started, we've really been working on delivering government services better and more efficiently. 11 years ago, if you needed a simple permit for a renovation in your house, you had to come downtown to City Hall and stand in line on the 3rd floor. And we've moved most of that online now. We have taken $1 billion out of the city's budget, which has allowed us to maintain the lowest taxes in the country without really hitting frontline services. And I'm quite proud of what we've done here. I think that the city is an exemplar for other governments generally, but especially other municipal governments, on how you can deliver great services at low cost. But the result of that is that I am leaving with a lot of stuff being cleared from the decks and a little bit of money in the bank to give the new mayor and council an opportunity to craft the post-pandemic future that they want. And I frankly have been a little bit surprised that this campaign has been a lot about bromides and, I will keep your taxes low, I will bring collaborative leadership, but not actually talking about what they want to do. I'm hard-pressed to actually really describe a vision for any of the 5 candidates leading in the polls right now. I like to think that in the times that I ran, people were going to the election, to the polling booth, whether they agreed or disagreed with me, with an idea of what I stood for. And the majority of people came voting for something. And I feel like in this election, a lot of people are going to the polling booth to vote against something. And I understand it's a very, very difficult time, but we're going to have a brand new council, at least 9 new members of council out of 15. We will have a brand new mayor. And there's a real opportunity in this moment where all of our assumptions have been upended by the pandemic and everything we think about how society works is different now. It is an actual moment for leaders to be able to step forward and say, we've got wet concrete, we've got wet clay, we can sculpt the future before it sets. And I'm hopeful that whoever is successful on the 19th will very quickly be able to turn their mind towards that big concept of the future and what kind of a future we want to build. We are, in fact, hitting 5 major crises right now: public health, mental health, economic, environmental, and what I call equity. And so we need a mayor and a city council who can meet this moment. It's not a moment for cheap headlines or easy sound bites. I will cut your taxes. I will be a collaborative leader. But I really would encourage voters to think hard about what happens when you put that person in a room with the Prime Minister and they're negotiating for Calgary? What happens when you put that person in front of the graduating class at the University of Toronto trying to convince young people to come here, or in a CEO's office or at the World Economic Forum trying to convince folks to invest billions of dollars in Calgary? What face do you want there? Who can be that brand for Calgary? Similarly, at the ward level, who can make the big decisions for the future of the community for our kids and our grandkids? Who's going to build a community where our kids think there is opportunity here and they want to stay here, and we can attract people from across the country and around the world? And if they just say, I'm going to cut your taxes and fix snow removal and invest in the police, it's not good enough. We have to get to harder questions about harder conversations. And this is not a moment where we can get away with city councillors who do the minimum, who show up at the ribbon cuttings, who say, I will cut your taxes and vote no on everything, or vote yes for everything, without an idea of any priorities. And so I'm really reaching out to citizens to, number 1, take the vote very seriously, but vote, obviously. And number 2, to understand that this new council is going to need some time to sort itself out. So we have to support whoever the new mayor and new council are with our ideas, with our thoughts, with our patience for when they do things wrong or they make errors, and build them up in order to be able to be a great government. And in this hyper-partisan world we live in, that's a challenge. But I think it's what we as citizens need to do.